Greetings, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Welcome back as we look at another indie game. This time we're returning to Gunsmith Simulator. This game was developed by GameHunters and is published by PlayWay S.A. These guys are no stranger to the channel, as I've covered several of their games in the past, including House Builder, Farmer's Life, and Robin Hood Sherwood Builders. Gunsmith Simulator is, in my opinion, the best simulation game on Steam. The attention to detail, variety of firearms and accurate gunsmithing practices put this game in a league of its own. This is the game that got me into covering simulation games. So when the developer reached out to me to cover their new DLC, Flint and Powder, I was delighted. What's better than classic American firearms? Well, it's taking a trip back in time to see the weapons that they were based on. We're talking arquebets, flintlocks, and muskets. The weapons of classic 1770s America. So, take a trip back in time with me and get another taste of freedom as we check out Gunsmith Simulator, Flint and Powder. Welcome to my humble gunsmithing business. Now there's been a lot of changes to the game since the last time I covered it, so I'm going to take you on a very brief tour. Starting off at my PC where we can do gunsmithing contracts, we can buy components and attachments that we can't build ourselves, and we can bid on weapons we want to add to our personal collection. My masteries and skills, as you can see, I am a very accomplished gunsmith, and I can assemble a few guns from scratch. My personal collection, which we're going to be taking a look at a little bit later. The woodworking station, where we can assemble wood gun parts, things like the gun bodies, stocks and handles. The assembly table, where we build the finished firearm from the components. And the cleaning station, where we can give guns a bit of clean with a bit of gun oil. For more heavy duty cleaning, we have the sandblasting and the wire brush stations, and the bluing tank, where we can add a finish to preserve gun parts after we've given them a clean. This here is a CNC milling machine, something that we can use to build gun parts from scratch. Now for more antique firearms such as the ones we're using today, most of these stations we aren't going to use. This is the bore sight station, something that we use to sight in any weapon with a telescopic sight. For obvious reasons, black powder guns aren't going to be using a telescopic sight. And finally, the lathe, which we can use to do repairs on gun barrels, and also make modifications to allow things such as a silencer. That's it for the tour. Let's get started on our first gun build. Black powder weapons are very hard to source, very expensive. So through the magic of editing, I have got a set of black powder weapons in my personal collection. Now of course I bought these at great expense, but these are not in the best of shape. As you can see, this Miquelet Pistol, which is our first weapon we're going to work on, has a number of parts that have been damaged by rust. Now the Miquelet Pistol is something you would find on the belt of a pirate. Very primitive, very inaccurate. But this is the father of modern firearms. You can see the visible damage to the gun. And after a while of playing this game, you'll get a bit of an eye for what parts need to be replaced. I can see here that at the very least, it's going to need a new stock, a new barrel, and possibly a new frizzen. Now this is the frizzen and the jaw of the pistol, the main firing mechanism. You can see there is a piece of flint. Going to take the trigger guard out, and then we can start working on disassembling the jaw of the gun. Now I love that the game lets you work at your own pace. So if you want to use tooltips and you want to get some help, you can do that. Or if you're a purist like me and you like to build your guns without any help, you can do that too. Okay, I think that is good to go. So we've pulled apart the frizzen and the jaw. We've taken the trigger guard off. We're going to pull the trigger out now. And then we're removing the belt hook. So there's no fancy holsters here. This thing would literally hang via a hook off the belt of its owner. Let's take the barrel out. And finally, the ramrod and the nose cap. Okay, beautiful. So having a look at the gun, we've got 3 pieces that are broken and a number of rusted pieces. So starting off, we have a wooden stock that I can actually make rather than buy. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our wooden block and we're going to draw our outline. Going to drop it into the saw. And then we can use a file to shape the part. Now, of course, because I have several skills in carving, it's nice and quick for me, but it's a bit of a slower process when you're a beginning gunsmith. Boom. So I've got a brand new sanded stock. We're going to go over to here and we're going to add a finish on it. And that's just to protect the wooden parts, because obviously this thing in the old days would be out on the sea. Maybe a pirate or perhaps a sailor would be using it. We have to worry about things like the salty water, the air, and when those guns get dirty, they're not going to work. Now, because this gun isn't the rarer antique version of the Miquelet Pistol, I can actually use a sanding machine to remove the rust. Don't recommend doing this in the rarer variant, because a solid gold Miquelet Pistol, something you may find on a nobleman or royalty, is something we want to try and clean by hand. But good luck getting one of those. Super, super rare. So now we've got our parts that have been stripped of rust and dirt. I'm going to turn on the bluing tank. And we can add our parts to the tank. And we're going to dunk them in some soap, clean them off, rinse them in water, bluing salts, then a bit of water, and then some hot water, and then bam. Okay, now we've actually run out of gas. So I'm going to go get another LPG gas tank, because trust me, we're going to need to oxidize more parts. Beautiful. Okay, so there were some parts that I cannot repair, and as I said, the barrel has been damaged beyond repair. So we're going to buy ourselves a new barrel and a new frizzen. Looking good. Now, in terms of damage to this gun, it's actually pretty minor. I've only had to completely replace 2 parts. which is quite good. Because these guns are very expensive and the individual parts are very, very expensive. Mainly due to their age. Okay, we've got all of what we need, so let's replace those broken parts with their working versions. And I think we're ready to reassemble. Oh, no. What we need to do is give these things just a quick dust down with the oiling rag. This is just to make sure they're well lubricated, the most common moving parts in the gun. You don't have to lubricate everything. Just the parts that are going to have a lot of movement. Okay. It can be a little bit tough getting in there. Okay, now all we have to do is put this bad boy back together. Now reassembly is always much easier than disassembly, so this is going to be a nice quick job. And you can see the huge difference in quality. No rust, no dirt, fresh oil. This bad boy's going to sing like a choir. So we're just putting together the jaw and the frizzen, making sure that we've got everything back together. The most important part, of course, the flint, providing that all-important ignition. Beautiful. So we've got the spring, we've got the frizzen, the belt hook, nose cap, ramrod, and barrel. And with that, we have a finished operational Miquelet pistol. So of course, as a responsible gun owner, I am going to test this. Beautiful. That is one operational weapon. So let's get this thing into the car, because of course we've got to test this at the range. My favourite part of every video. Now of course we've got a bit more time, so let's build something a little bit beefier. And now it's time to check out my favourite weapon in the Flint and Powder DLC. This beautiful piece of kit is the Brown Bess. Now this weapon was incredibly reliable for the time, and it's quite powerful. It was a military rifle used quite extensively. And we're going to pull it apart, we're going to repair it, and we're going to test it out. Now, my initial view of the weapon, we can see that the stock, the body of the weapon, is going to need replacement. The barrel's in pretty good shape, but I can see that there's some items on the jaw, and possibly this hook here, and maybe the trigger as well, that have to be replaced. But this weapon isn't in a terrible shape. I mean, for what I paid for it, I think we'll only need to do some minor repairs. Now, of course, like most black powder weapons, once you kind of get the rough layout of the gun, it makes it a lot easier to pull these bad boys apart. The firing mechanism for most of these guns is virtually identical. It just comes down to being a more longer range version of the pistol. Yeah, you can see the rust and the damage here. We're going to have a few parts needing replacements, but I don't think we're going to have to spend a huge amount of money on it. That trigger's probably broken. We'll see. I was pretty spot on my guess on the first gun, so we'll take the ramrod out, and then we can remove the ramrod holder. There we go. And the ramrod pipe, and of course the hooks. It is of course good to try and focus on one area of the gun at the time. And that makes disassembly and assembly a lot more efficient. Okay, we just have to get the barrel out. We're pretty much done here. It's not exactly a complex gun. It's essentially a very big pipe for very big bullets. Okay, the sear spring, I believe that will be here. And the tumbler. Beautiful. So I was actually off. The trigger was good. So the stock is broken, and we need to replace the ramrod and the ramrod pipe. Now these are made out of, I think they're made out of brass. So yes, I have an excuse to use the milling machine. I didn't think I'd get to do it in this video. Now these things are made out of brass, so let's get a brass block. Ooh, that's a big part. That's not going to fit. No dice, so I'm going to have to change to the more expensive big material. Will that fit? Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So we are milling these out of metal. It's not cheap, but it's a lot more cheaper than buying the parts from the supplier. So do a little bit of home construction. The ramrods, butt plates, ramrod pipe, and the front. Okay, so we've got front, back, and middle. Front, back, middle, butt plate, ramrod. Beautiful. Okay. So now all we have to do is open the milling machine, place the piece of brass in here, close the doors, and start the machine. We'll come back in about a minute or so. Now while we do that, I'm going to see if I can. Beautiful. So much like the Miquelet Pistol, we can actually make our own wooden stock for the gun. Now I could buy one, but again, it's all about counting costs. I'm not exactly poor, but the more money we have in our pockets, the more I can spend on my personal collection. And best believe once we build these guns, I'm not selling them. I'll probably only sell them if I find the antique variant, the more valuable variant. Because the antique variant requires a lot of work and is even more rare. In fact, I haven't even found an antique variant available for purchase. I have worked on some, but they were for budding gun owners that were definitely not going to be selling them to me. They were contracts for collectors that I actually made a lot of profit on, because who would think that working on rare guns would net you a tidy profit. If you can get a contract for an antique firearm, the owners are generally willing to pay whatever you say. Because these firearms are super duper rare, and they can't afford any mistakes. Let's just get this thing fully milled, fully sanded Boom. Okay, looking good. Can be a little bit tricky trying to sand some of these bigger parts. I'm sure I've missed a tiny piece. Oh, there we go. I missed a piece on the butt of the gun. So again, it's much the same process as the Miquelet Pistol. We shape our part, we sand our part, and then we oil our part. It's a thing of beauty. Something not many Australians understand. But I do. Okay, so we'll head back to the CNC mill. And we're going to turn the block over to mill the other half. Like so. Boom. Okay, and while that's going, we're going to sandblast this bad boy. Okay. Looking good. Okay, so the trigger was damaged, but not beyond repair. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to wait for this milling to complete, because I'm going to need to oxidize any part that I create in the miller. And it costs money to do oxidization, so you want to try and do them in batches. Only do one oxidization per firearm. Beautiful. Okay, I think, yes, that's it. So we're going to get our protective equipment on, turn on our gas and oxidize the parts. We're getting to be old hat at this now. We know what we're doing. Bit of soap, bit of cold water, bit of bluing salt, cold water rinse, and then hot. Beautiful. Okay, so a little bit of cleaning. Look at that. Beautiful bronze sheen. Okay, so all we got to do is to replace the broken pieces. Excellent. Now, we actually have gotten out of this pretty well. I didn't have to purchase any parts. We were able to mill everything we needed. So if I was going to sell this, I would make an absolute ton. Because apart from the actual cost of acquiring this gun, which I believe was at roughly around $2,000 US, I would probably sell this thing for nearly double that. And if I paint this, which we are going to do, we're going to paint this bad boy. Because I forgot to do that for the Miquelet Pistol. So of course we got to give it a bit of paint. Okay, nice and simple. Reassemble this bad boy. We'll start with the jaw and the frizzen. Screw everything in. savage. Okay, and then we just have to put in the trigger. This was actually a really good purchase. This gun had superficial damage, and I paid, I believe, about $1,500 US, or maybe it was more. Maybe it was about $2. At the time, it seemed really expensive. I bought it just to do this video, and I was going to sell it, but I've kind of got a bit of a soft spot for this gun. I'm going to keep it. And that is the biggest problem for me in these games. PlayWay, if you're watching, you make it so much fun to build these guns and use them that I can't sell them. So I make all these guns, I fall in love with them, and then I end up not making any money because I can't part with them. So then I've got to make some heartbreaking decisions when I have to make a new video, because then I have to sell some of my collection to make a bit of money. And I sat there for a good half an hour trying to figure out which of my collection I was going to put on the chopping block. It was heart-wrenching, I assure you. There we go. And I believe we've got Frizen. And that is one finished Brown Bess. So of course, again, we're going to do a bit of a test. We have to pull the hammer back twice, cock the Frizen, and fire. Now, one thing I'm going to do, which is, of course, I have to do this. I'm going to create a new pattern, and it's gonna have to be red, white, and blue. I mean, oh, look at that! Perfect. We have a red, white, and blue pattern ready to go. I don't know if I like that pattern. That's not, let's pick that. That's 4. We don't want that. Well, I want a pattern that's red, white, and blue. Now that is a little bit more, I mean, it's a bit on the nose for a weapon if it was a replica, but let's go red. I mean, this is America, so white and blue. Well, it kind of looks a bit more British than American. I'm gonna have to. I've got to. If it was a British gun, then maybe, but I need some more America vibes. Okay, red, white, blue. Hey, okay, I like that. Yeah. Okay, let's maybe add a little bit of metallic sheen to it. There we go. Oh yeah. Me likey. There we go. Bit of a darker blue. It kind of feels like a post-apocalyptic weapon. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, maybe just a bigger. There we go. It's a little colourful, but what better way to say American than a red, white, and blue musket? Now, I said I had a surprise for you, so let's go check out my personal collection. Because I wanted to mix in the old with the new. So we've got some black powder weapons, but I wanted to show you, this is my personal collection. It's a work in progress, but have a look at this. I've got shotguns, pump action and break action, pistols, and of course my personal favourites, the AK-47. I've also got a K98 and an Arasaka. But what I wanted to show you is this. The red, white and blue variant. I like to call this the Beast. This is the Colt 1911. An iconic piece of kit, and I couldn't think of anything more American. Something that bridges the gap between the old and the new. So we're going to take this to the firing range as well. But I built this after the first video, because a lot of my audience liked my American M4, and I thought I'll try it out for a pistol as well. So now we've done all the hard work, let's go and test out our new firearms at the range. It's a beautiful day to do some shooting. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and soon our guns are going to do some singing as we try and hit some targets. Now, of course, I am using the black powder weapons. They're not known for their accuracy. So we're going to start at 20 meters, and I know this gun has a bit of climb, so you have to aim slightly below what you're trying to hit. Let's aim roughly there. Okay, I'm still out. But that was a hit. So this gun has some crazy climb. You have to aim well below what you're aiming at. I'm assuming because of the kick. Let's try one more. And aim a bit lower. About there. Whoa! That actually worked. I nearly got a bullseye. So there we go. Probably useless information given the rarity of these weapons, but if you do aim well below what you're trying to hit, you can somewhat shoot accurately with the Miquelet Pistol. So I'm going to try again. I'm aiming well below what I'm trying to hit. Seems to work. Now, of course, I'm not going to be shooting anyone in the dome with this thing. It's very inaccurate. But there is somewhat a technique to use this gun successfully, which is essentially shoot at the ground. Whoa. Okay, laugh all you want, but my technique works. Not too bad. A 50-meter shot with a Miquelet pistol. Now, of course, once we drop out to 100 meters, my chance of hitting everything goes down to 0, but we'll have a laugh. Yeah, no hope. No hope. Far too distant. Even with my patented shoot the ground technique. Well, I think it's time to move on to something a little more reliable in terms of range. Now, the Brown Bess is designed to be a sharpshooter rifle, so let's aim center of mass and see. Dead straight. So I hit that right in the center. This thing is actually a nail driver compared to the Miquelet. No ground shooting required. Let's move out to a greater distance. I'm keeping this gun. This is going in my personal collection. Unfortunately, you are going to have to wait several years for this to be reloaded, but in a combat situation, I know which gun I'm going to be reaching for if it's the 1700s. So we're skipping straight out to 100 meters. Now, I'm not super confident. Let's see how we go. Yeah, no hope. So 100 meters is a little bit too far for this bad boy. But anything between 25 to 50 meters or so, you're going to hit center of mass. Let's try one more. Because I can. I've done a lot of testing with the modern guns, but not too much with the black powder weapons. I was saving that for this video, and I'm glad I did. Hey! That's a hit. So this is good to about 100 meters. And 50 meters, that was 50. So anything to around 50 meters you're going to hit. Now, of course, it's time to test out the more modern variant. I want to see how the Colt 1911 stacks up against the black powder variants. Now I've taken the suppressor off to give me a bit of an easier time hitting the target, so I can do a proper test. So cover your ears. Boom. Oh, bullseye. Nice. Another bullseye. So a tiny bit of climb with this. But now I've got the hang of it. Look at that. Consistent bullseyes. Already this thing's absolutely smoking the Miquelet Pistol. Absolutely smokes it. Every shot. Okay, let's make things a bit more challenging. Bring it out to 50. Okay, a bit of climb again. Let's drop it a bit. Oh, there we go. Roughly about there. Boom. Bullseye. Another bullseye. So we can confidently say the 1911 is far more reliable and accurate at 50 meters than any black powder weapon. Surprise, surprise. Now, 100 meters, you're probably going to struggle a bit. Let's see how we go. Yeah, no hope. Yeah, 100 meters, you're going to struggle with this. But at least we figured out what our effective range is. So I think that's going to do for our shooting test. And what are my final thoughts on this game? Well, it's obvious I love it. I think this is an absolute must-play. If you are a fan of simulation games, if you're a gun enthusiast like myself, then this is the game for you. It is an incredibly fun experience. It is probably the most accurate gunsmithing experience that you'll find on Steam, and it's just generally the gold standard for simulation games. The only thing I'm hoping is that I can get my hands on the new DLC, which has just been released. I'm hoping to bring that to you at some point in the future. where we can check out more of these fantastic guns and have more fun building and testing them out. So big thank you to the guys over at PlayWay and GameHunters. Absolutely loved covering this game, love everything about it, and I hope to bring more Gunsmith Simulator to you in the future. So if you like this video, leave me a like, leave me a subscribe. Big thank you to the guys at PlayWay, and hopefully you'll join me next time when we check out another indie game. Until then, Skill Incarnate out.